Hello, welcome to the
Won't you
Crackpot
lend your lungs to me?
Podcast.
Mine are collapsing. Plant my feet and bitterly breathe up the time that's passed. Breath I'll take and breath I'll give. Pray the day's not poised. Stand among the ones that live in lonely indecision.
Hello and welcome to episode 48 of the Crackpot Podcast with James LaFond and Lynn Lockhart. Good morning, James.
Uh, Good morning, Lynn.
James, we have been plagued by technical problems, but I feel like this is the one. This is going to work. Okay?
Thanks to Phil the Flyer, who crash landed between the dumpster and the tree with the turkey vultures in it behind the apartment I was staying in. He came and it took him all of like 90 seconds to fix my grave technical difficulties. And he was nice enough to kind of conceal from me the true extent of my tech-tardedness. So we're going to get together with Big Ron and Mescaline Franklin for beers tonight in Gomorrah, Baltimore, and then boom, heading out of town. Okay, so I've already made my escape into the nether reaches, okay, of the interior of the hinterland by the time this airs, so my associates will be safe.
That's good. Yeah, I'm going to try to air it faster than I used to in the old days. Tomorrow, so this will have already happened by the time this airs, but tomorrow you're going to speak with Deanna Spingola for
Yeah,
RBG Radio. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, so just be on time. I know you're going to paint the town red with Big Ron and all your pals, but
Well, I'm nervous about it, but I'll try to do a good job.
you'll do a great job. So we had one of your computers blow up, so we couldn't talk because of that. Then you got a new computer, but Skype wasn't working. Now Skype is working.
Colin, one of our proofreaders, sent me a computer.
Thank you, Colin. That was really generous. Thank you. This episode is dedicated to the generosity of the technology, the listeners with their technology. I really appreciate it. Phil and Colin, very kind. But you couldn't get on Skype for a while, so Phil came out and helped with that. Then yesterday we talked, and it was my fault. Something went wrong on my end, and the recording didn't happen, and that almost happened again today.
Well, we're past all that. Now, you had a question about the site being taken down?
Yeah, and then your site was down about a week ago now, I think. It was
Yes.
down for about 24 hours or more. So can you tell us about what happened?
Okay, well, my webmaster has a real job. When this happens during his work day, he's not going to be able to address it till he gets off work. And he does this out of the kindness of his heart. So, it takes a while. And once he started working on it, it took him a while. And I asked him what the problem was. And there was just this groan of silence, which kind of reminds me of Zaltulton, the sorcerer, who has been resurrected after 3,000 years in the Hour of the Dragon, when Conan starts debating him about the civic responsibilities of a king. And Zaltulton just dismissed Conan. He said, "It is less exhausting to use my magic to level an entire city than it is to frame my thoughts so that a brainless barbarian could understand it." Okay? He was turning and changed. So that's basically the answer I got from my webmaster.
I see. Okay, so we'll never really know the depth of the problem.
Explaining it to me would have been far more painful and time consuming than actually fixing the problem, which apparently took like 12 hours or something.
Oh, wow.
And so this was an attack on the site. Nobody got into the site. It was an attack on the site. They have done something before. They've attacked the web host provider, messed with their billing program to make it look like we weren't paying our bill to trigger an automatic shut off. That happened before. They did something else he once described to me as rearranging a signpost on the internet to point away from the site. And then this time it was like they put a lock and chain on the front of it. But basically boarding up your store without ever going inside of it. Now, that last part, that's just my guess, okay? Because whatever it was beyond his ability to frame it so that my tiny Stone Age mind could. I would like to thank my benevolent censors once again, because I hadn't sold a book in about a month. You know, when we rolled our stuff over into Kindle from CreateSpace, when that happened, when they consolidated, my book sales essentially stopped. I went from selling 3 books a day to selling 3 books a week and then none. And then apparently having the site taken down or having it shrouded, whatever was done to it, pissed off 15 of my readers because I sold 15 books like in that 2-day period.
Awesome.
So I guess I have the censors to thank for that. And thanks to the readers for buying my books. I hope you read them. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and there's of course links all over the blog spot. But we created a bookstore, and because if you go to Amazon and you search James LaFond, you'll see just page after page of books, and it's a little bit hard to tell because you've written over 140 books already in print and another 17 that aren't in print. For people who are looking for a particular genre to know where to look. So what we have done in the blog spot is created genres for all your books that are available and links to Amazon so people can easily shop for those genres that they're interested in, such as the Sunset Saga, combat and survival, the Harm City books, all the Plantation America books, and so on, fiction, some of the biographies that you have written, and all the literary impressions that you have written about Robert E. Howard and Moby Dick and other ones. So if you like something, if you have a LaFond book that you really like and you want to know if there are more books like that one, then you will be able to use this bookstore.
Thank you. If we could make a recommendation on behalf of my benevolent censors, which must be a team of people, I don't think it's just one person that cares about promoting my stuff in this manner. They have determined that my 3 most dangerous categories of writing are Harm City, masculinity, and plantation America.
All right.
Okay? So to the extent that I have any notoriety or infamy, it's in those categories right there. So those are the categories we could see stuff in the future possibly being banned. Although I don't think they're going to directly ban the plantation America stuff. I think they're banning the other 2 categories because they're just trying to take my money away for publishing in Plantation America. If they go after a specific history subject, it might really look like they got something to hide. And so that's my theory why they haven't actually gone after that. Although every act of censorship has coincided. It's correlated with something I published on Plantation America.
All right. Is that where you're going to be talking about with Deanna tomorrow as well?
That seems to be what she wants to be talking about, so I could expect another book banning or censorship thing.
It's really important work, and I think that people are catching on. At least, I mean, my small Twitter circle is primarily people who know you and who follow my Twitter just because they want to keep tabs on you somehow. So
okay, well, you're like my nosy little sister, okay?
Yeah.
So, right. So if people want to find out where I'm locked up currently or what bar I'm drinking at, okay? Or which ill-advised relationship I've just entered into, then they'll ask you.
No, I don't provide any of that. That's not my problem.
I'm thinking metaphorically.
No,
okay.
Metaphorically, I just try to bring attention to your work, but what I'm trying to say is that within that circle, the awareness of the history of slavery in the United States is becoming greater.
I'm sure, particularly with John Paul Barber, his great granddaddy probably still had a brand on his cheek when he fled to the hills down there.
Hills, yeah.
Carolinas, yeah, that's where everybody that was running from Virginia went to.
Right.
The hills of North Carolina. Okay.
So it's important history that people need to know about. And I think it's trickling out there. So I'm glad Deanna has picked up on it and she's going to run with that as well. So with that, what we are planning for today is a short episode of cultural commentary. I have shared with James a few comical tweets and videos and headlines. I will try to incorporate them into the YouTube video when we get this up, and I'll put links so that you can see the funny things that James is reacting to. But the first one has to do with a Tyson Fury fight that just took place last weekend. And we had a question from John Paul Barber, who is a big boxing fan, and he wanted to know about this. I think it was in the second round that Tyson got knocked down, but he just came back up. He came back up like Lazarus. And you were going to tell us about what's going on in a fighter's mind.
Before I was even allowed to box, which was a right I earned from my parents by agreeing not to run away when they moved to Pennsylvania, all I had was a punching bag and a mirror in me, and I actually practiced punching myself in the face for 2 years before I was allowed to have anybody actually do it. I was so afraid of the prospect that I wouldn't be able to get smashed in the face and just give it back. Okay, the idea that a fighter has to have in their mind of their own relevance is much stronger if they believe that they're unstoppable. And you can believe it until somebody stops you. And then even once you get stopped in a certain way, you can continue. It's so deeply ingrained in some fighters. Simon Brown, former middleweight champion, junior middleweight champion, fighting at the Pikesville Armory, got knocked out cold in a fight. And as he laid there unconscious on the mat, he was still punching. He was punching up in the air. Really horrified a lot of people at ringside. I actually won 2 fights while I was unconscious. I'd been knocked out on my feet, and I just continued to go through the motions. And the one time I woke up as the referee was pulling me off the guy that I was beating that was on the floor. And even after I started to wake up, I couldn't stop hitting this guy. And the referee picked me up and pulled me off of him. Joe Frazier, after he got knocked out by George Foreman, he woke up in the locker room and he was all ready for the fight. He thought he was waking up from a pre-fight nap. A lot of fighters take a nap before a fight. So there's this mechanism that you use to brainwash yourself into accepting and being able to fight through stuff that's supposed to be unacceptable, and we're generally led to believe will disable us. So Mike Tyson, the first time he fought Evander Holyfield, not the ear-biting fight, but the first one, Holyfield hurt him so badly in the beginning of the fight that Tyson was actually claimed that he couldn't remember anything after the 3rd round. He looked fine. Everybody was out there. It was a good fight. But I think he got stopped in the 11th round. He just didn't remember like a half hour of his life. And he was out there doing stuff in public and everything. So it's Edwin Rosario was a guy that his religion was, I never go to the fort. It doesn't happen. That was his idea of who he was. He was always going to be on his feet, even if he didn't win. So this is real prominent in lots of different types of fighters. Then when they lose their own mystique like that, when they definitively get knocked out, it'll either break them or it'll change them. With me, when I found after getting knocked out from body punches, I became a different type of fighter. I had to change. I couldn't accept the fact that I couldn't fight. So I just changed the way I fought. I couldn't go forward absorbing punishment anymore. So I became a type of fighter that nobody wants to see fight. What they would have called a dastard in the old London prize ring, a guy that kind of moves around on the outside, tries to score cheap shots. So, and there was another question about Tyson Fury and the Deontay Wilder fight being a draw. And this was given to me at the dining room table of my friend's house when Phil had done the Herculean task of getting Skype up and going on my computer. He wanted to know if there's a way that you could fix a fight to be a draw. And I can tell you the way most fights are fixed is they are fixed by the match that is being made. Either it's a hometown fight where you're sure that the hometown guy is going to win as long as he doesn't get knocked out because the judges are local, or in a championship fight, actually the way most fights are fixed is just they pick a featherweight to fight a lightweight, or a lightweight to fight a welterweight, or a welterweight to fight a middleweight. And he's smaller and he's not as good, and he's fighting in the other guy's hometown. He's got no chance. That's how boxing records are built. But the way you would fix a fight to be a draw so you could get another fight out of it, if you had the clout to affect the assignment of the judges. So you have two extremely different types of fighters, with Deontay Wilder, an action, come ahead, knock people out fighter, and then Tyson Fury, who's a guy that's going to try to be cute, not get hit, and counterpunch. Assign a judge that favors each type of fighter. All these judges have histories, and the only guy I like on the HBO staff is this Letterman guy who actually keeps track of all the judges' decisions and tells you what kind of judge that person is at the beginning of the fight, how they're likely to judge this fight. So that's known to boxing insiders. So you get one that would favor one fighter, one that would favor the other fighter, and then all you have to do is pay off one judge to score a draw. If you have to pay off more than one actor to get something done, you're going to be found out. Okay? And you really can't pay off the fighter to throw a fight, because once he throws a fight, his ability to pull income just goes down the tubes. Okay? Because their income is based on the last fight, how good they did in the last fight. Okay? They never get paid really for the fight that they're fighting. They get paid based on the popularity generated with the last fight, or lost with the last fight.
Okay, thank you for covering the Tyson Fury fight and questions. That was, I know, lots of people want to hear what you have to say on that. And I know that going forward, most of your fight advice and fight commentary you want to do this way. Is that true?
Yes, after next week, I'm done writing books on how to beat the piss out of rival bags of meat. Okay? That's just it. There's going to be 15 of them. I'm getting to the point, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I can't remember what I wrote 20 years ago. I'm going to try not to humiliate myself here, and I'll bow out with like 15 books on how to brutalize your fellow man. Okay?
That's plenty. So, you've done your part.
I'll address it, but I'll do it in interviews, and The Leveler and Yeti Waters might have me on their channels. And of course, there's this here. So.
Yeah. And people, to all your visitors and future visitors, you can always send me your videos or share them on G Drive or whatever, and I will eventually put them up on my channel too. So that's another way to do it. So since we just talked fighting, let's talk about what is the lightest weight class? What's the name of it?
Flyweight.
Flyweight? Yeah. I don't think Ruth Bader Ginsburg makes it.
I think it's around 104 pounds.
No, she's way under that.
Right.
So, but she fell over the other day and broke 3 of her own ribs, poor thing. So I thought people might want to hear about what it feels like to have broken ribs, because you are well versed in that. And also if you could comment on how is it really nutty for people to publicly proclaim their desire to donate their own organs to this woman, as they were doing a few weeks ago.
Well, it's proof that human sacrifice was to some extent voluntary in the past. Okay, just that impulse there.
That urge is there inside people.
People care more about being accepted by their fellow humans than they care about anything else, unless you're some kind of freak. Okay, and then you're a problem. As far as you can get more people to sacrifice themselves, I'm sure. You could get more people who would be willing to be Jesus on the cross than you could get to actually go out and fight to protect their family, their own family. I truly believe that, okay? Because you've got to be able to break you got to be able to break a lot of taboos and risk your life, okay, to go into combat. Whereas to be a sacrificial lamb, you just have to accept it, okay? And they're both going to hurt like hell, all right? So not accepting something is very difficult, all right? And this is one reason why, a lot of people have a really hard time being presented with anything truthful that's uncomfortable. The ribs, I've had every rib on my left side fractured. I've had the cartilage between all my ribs on my left side fractured. I had the cartilage between my breastbone and my upper ribs on my left side compressed so that I couldn't expand that lung. Okay. That hurt pretty damn bad. Okay. But the worst thing was having the intercostals right above my diaphragm torn. And the intercostals are the muscles that connect that cartilage and that bone together. Haven't had too many breaks or tears on the right side, okay, of my body. But I was only unwise enough to kickbox on one occasion. That's the reason for that. Okay.
That's the one where you went flying over the spectators, right?
That wasn't even a kickboxing match. That was a stick fighting match. The one kickboxing match I had also ended in the same way, with me being involuntarily airborne and enjoying the miracle of horizontal flight, okay, powered by Caucasoid buttocks muscles and a big pale heel. Okay, so what's the old lady feeling? Her life is hell. Every time she breathes, it hurts. Every time she coughs, it's an agony. If she sneezes, or if some asshole makes her laugh, then she's in extreme agony. Okay, it's bad news. So,
and if you can't breathe deeply, that's a risk for pneumonia, especially at her age, right?
Yes. Yeah, hip injuries cause death in the elderly primarily because they end up bedridden and then fluid collects in their lungs and they go out.
Right. Well, we haven't heard much about what she's up to, but she's a tough old bird, so maybe we haven't seen the last of her yet.
Well, hopefully that guy, that Snowman Munson guy, the MMA guy that got fined for defacing a national monument in D.C., actually got jailed for it, I think. That you can find him getting his face beat in by Fedor Emelianenko a couple years ago. This extremely muscular, tattooed freak. He was running a class for Antifa people for a while, teaching them how to beat up wrong thinkers. I think they should actually just neutralize the already marginal frontal lobe for him and just mount Mama Ruth on his shoulders and have him go around. And there's another point here, okay? If you're going to have women as judges, you need to get away from having these women of European extraction, because this kind of thing is going to happen. And they're going to have no sense of humor. They're not going to be able to laugh while they're hearing their case on the Supreme Court. Aside from Eastern European powerlifters and strength athletes, the people with the strongest bones in the world are West African women. Okay, so if you're going to have women on the Supreme Court or in every important office in their old age when they could possibly slip and fall or something, you need to have a bunch of sisters up there. Okay, so they'll stay strong and healthy. You don't have to worry about them falling and cracking a rib, like some old ghost woman.
All right. Because I think these women could provide better entertainment for all of us, right?
Well, I would probably start going to the Supreme Court if it was public. If we could just get a few Geraldines up there.
Yeah, that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Go right to the West African Chinese master race.
Right. So
I'd love to see the video again.
You want to see the video again? Yeah, I knew you'd like it. Okay, so I shared a video with James because he shared with me this fact that the bones are much stronger in West African women. And this is something I've been concerned with for a while, because we know that China is recolonizing Africa, and they're sending a lot of men to Africa. And a video came up on my timeline and on Twitter, and you could see the future right there in this video.
Why you have surplus Chinese men?
You do.
They encourage birthing of men so their excess population could be sent out and do what men do: conquer oppress, impregnate.
Maybe. I don't think that was maybe that's the unconscious purpose, but that is what is taking place. So I'll share that video as some kind of a mating display between an African woman and a Chinese man. And
Oh, and this is yesterday. You showed me this after you showed me the picture of the nude demonstration
right.
by the pale-face college professor.
It's another mating display of a less joyful
Yeah, sterile.
aspect.
I,
Yeah.
I mentioned at the time because we just in a different order yesterday.
Right.
When I saw this African woman dancing in front of this Chinese man, I told Lynn shamelessly that British college professor to put up nude pics of herself, I would climb over her to get to that black chick. Okay.
Which I wasn't. I was able to correctly predict both of these reactions. So,
That's I would neglect the college professor. She'd have to wait. Okay.
which I mean, she might not survive, honestly, because she's at her wit's end. This is a woman, Dr. Victoria something, over at I think it's Cambridge or Oxford or one of those fancy English ancient and grand universities, and she was concerned about Brexit, and so her giant brain told her that Brexit was bad, but her really desperate ovaries told her that the best way to express her feelings were to get naked in public.
Yes. Well, and look, and that's compatible with reversing Brexit and getting a whole lot of eligible like gang rapists from Morocco and Syria in there to really take care of her frustration for her. That's what it's about. It's probably what it's about with all those middle-aged women adopting these adult Afghan boys and Syrian boys, and which they're calling boys and they're not. You know, they've got an unboy-like gleam in their eye. so,
Yeah.
So the lady's sexually frustrated. Okay. And, these types of people, in more decent times, they used to be parceled out as property to people who knew how to help them feel fulfilled.
It was brought to my attention by a gentleman on Twitter called John Random1234.
John Random, thank you.
And he said that this broad is like a character James would come up with. Then I think your response when you saw the picture was that she was summoning the Khan.
Yes. She certainly was. And after seeing her, she's the type of character that I would write in the Sunset Saga. Everything is really run. The enforcers in future corporate America, they're these genetically engineered, psychotic, incestuous lesbian chicks. Okay, that are like.
She has the face for it. She's a pretty girl,
right.
But she looks nutty.
But they're like these 6 foot tall Korean babes, okay?
Well, she's too little then for that.
Right. So this would have been like one of her little, the really aggressive lesbians build harems. I've known a few of them. I've been good friends with a few of them. They build harems. So the professor character there, she would have been like the seductee of one of my far future dominatrix political murderer characters. Okay. Yeah, I've had that character in a couple of my novels.
Yeah,
pretty much just.
She's petite. Looks like she could lose her temper in an epic way, but she couldn't really harm a fly unless she was armed. But she's a little but crazy. So I just think it's funny that she doesn't know that she's doing a mating display, or her brain is so powerful that she believes she's making a political statement.
That's right, and she's demonstrating the fact that she's suitable property.
Yeah,
it's natural. There's nothing wrong with it.
It is wrong. Are you kidding me?
In your world, okay? In my world, there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, she's still out there. No, it's wrong because it's wrong that she's sort of reached this extreme, and it's still wrong because it's not getting solved. She's posted these pictures up, and her problem is still there. You can tell.
Well, she's leveled a very poignant protest at the patriarchy, because the patriarchy has not done its job,
Correct.
okay,
Yep.
which is satisfying her deepest needs, okay, and there she goes, she's lost, okay.
It's sad. Sad story.
Okay, so can I see the African chick dance again?
Okay. I have to find it.
If I watch it again, I might be ready to go out and stab somebody in the guts for shaka. Okay, that was
It was impressive. The print pattern of her dress is really flattering, and I don't have a dress like that.
I didn't even know there was any flattering print pattern to it.
You did. It's there. You noticed it. I promise.
No, I didn't notice it for what it was. Apparently, I'm falling victim to a partial illusion here.
An optical. It's not. I would say no.
It look?
It is an enhancement. She's working with. She's well endowed. Okay.
Okay. All right. As long as I wasn't entirely hoodwinked, I can go with it.
No. All right.
The only thing that bothers me about that is that you should have a bunch of Polacks and Russians down there knocking up these West African chicks, so you can get a really good crop of heavyweight fighters. Not these pencil necks out of Sinopia. Okay, so that's what I got to say about that.
I have to say that the master race is going to have to include some Samoan or Maori or Polynesian mix as well.
Yeah, you got to have something more masculine than that dude could obviously at any point. She could scissor him with them legs and like snap his spine in half.
Yeah.
Okay? This is like Don Knotts and Serena Williams. Okay? This is like
They both look so happy though. You have to.
Yes, they did. Well,
yeah.
He's probably pretty well endowed financially. Okay? So he's got complimentary endowments. Like I said, everything politically, anywhere, essentially comes down to a strip club. You can model everything in the world on a strip club.
You said
and did I not when we did that episode, did I not bring up the fact that eventually you got Asian guys running the strip club and black bouncers working for him? Okay? Well, he's going to get his own bouncer out of this chick to run his strip club, wherever he's going to do it. Maybe he'll cater to a bunch of sissy men out of Britain that can't satisfy this college professor or whatever. So, we'll see. But it all comes down to things devolve to the strip club economic model. And it becomes strictly deterministic once Asians get involved. I think I'm done digging my ditch for today. Let's go into something.
Let's come back closer to home, where the municipal government of Baltimore has filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, the President of the United States. And the picture that accompanies the headline is a beautiful example of the diverse strength that we have, where you have a woman wearing her Muslim headscarf. You have a couple of white men looking cowed and submissive, guilty. You have some other kind of strong women of color looking out for things, and I think a black man is at the podium. So what Baltimore complains is that Donald Trump is making life very difficult for immigrants, but this is the part that killed me. He's also making life difficult for potential immigrants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and thereby their sponsors and their possible benefactors. Okay, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who, like all these other strong women of color in Baltimore, really need Donald Trump on a much more intimate level than they could ever achieve. So therefore they resent this proxy thing where he's just going to do stuff to the city. No, that's not good enough. They need daddy on the spot. They can't have him because, they're not a Russian fashion model. So there's a lot of again, go back to the strip club model. You always end up with some African American chick who's a former gymnast beating up some Russian bitch in the locker room. Okay, So here we go. The Stephanie Rawlings Blake, she put in an order verbally on the news. I saw this newscast that she was asking. I think the exact figure was 1,100. She wanted 1,100 Somali refugees. Now, the housing has been being built around Baltimore City, not in Baltimore City. They don't plan on moving these people into Baltimore City. They're going to move them into Baltimore County. And there's another problem locally, which is a real dearth of Central American and Mexican men. Okay, that's Big Ron's working 70 hours a week now that he's gotten back to work. He's working with Mexicans, West Virginia rednecks, and Lumbies from North Carolina, because there's not a guy in Maryland who's not a Mexican other than Big Ron who can pass the drug test and get on board for an actually really good pay rate. Just can't be done. And when they do pass the drug test, the first time they get paid, they go down the street and they start firing heroin up and coming back to the job site. So they got to get rid of them. So there's a real need for the Central American labor here with the men. There's the anarcho-tyranny need to continue to export terror and violence on the street in order to justify an expanded police presence. And they don't want that to be a federal police presence. When they accepted those 20 federal agents to help out after the riots, they done put 20 Baltimore City police officers in prison, okay? Because, they find out that the crooks aren't the only crooks in town. So you can't really ask for more federal aid. They actually, when Sessions offered to help with the crime problem in Baltimore, they turned them down because of this immigration issue, because they want to bring more African criminals into Baltimore City. These guys from Somalia come from a war zone. They only know how to do one thing. The only one I ran into was staking out a drugstore trying to rob people until I walked up to him and moved him to the drugstore across the street where he staked it out right in front of a Baltimore County cop. He didn't care that the cop was there. The guy didn't have, his little wedge-shaped head didn't seem to contain too many brains. He was really dim-witted. I felt sorry for this guy. Okay. But as far as working out of doors, the Harm City Hood Rats are still going to be dropping more than 300 bodies this year, even though they're exporting a reign of terror to the surrounding county. So what you really need for doing work outdoors is dudes that are 5'2". Okay. So they don't get shot in the chest and the head, while all this stuff's going on. We've had 3 little children between age 2 and 5 shot by accident. Okay. So you can imagine a 200 pound, 6'1" guy out there trying to work on the street, doing construction or hauling trash or something. He's just going to be too big of a meat shield. He's going to catch a lot of lead. So you want a lot of these little short guys to do the work while you have your other immigrants adding to the firepower force pool for the continual reign of terror. In fact, our mayor recently said she didn't want to hear about how many shootings there were in Baltimore because there were no deaths that day. Nobody got killed that day. They just got shot. Those 2 guys died in the hospital like 6 hours later after midnight. But you know what? She's still not wrong because nobody died on that day. They got shot on that day. All right.
That's awful.
So there you go. Baltimore City has declined help from the Department of Justice with their runaway crime problem. We will probably be the deadliest large city in America for like the 4th year running.
They really, hood rats over there punch above their weight. They have a greater mortality rate than the other cities. It's impressive. And you and Well-Read Ed, he's near Detroit. Is that correct?
Yes, he worked in an emergency room in Detroit back in like the 90s. Yeah, that must have been a shit show.
During
the 80s.
The crack era, I guess, probably. So, but you guys had a little exchange about guns and calibers.
Oh, calibers.
Yeah.
They're 25 caliber and 22 caliber were the most common rounds up there. Down here, it's 9mm and 45.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about bullets that are like 3 times the mass, at least, of the bullets they're getting shot in up there. So maybe that has something to do with the lack of, kills per person hit in Chicago. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of small caliber ammunition being used up in the Great Lakes area.
Well, people often say that the United States is headed towards the way of Brazil, and in Brazil, They recently elected Bolsonaro, who is a military-affiliated law and order guy. I'm sure you remember this, but he actually got stabbed, yeah, during the campaign. Had to have a couple surgeries, and he was out for a few weeks. And he came back to win. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he has some really great video out there. But he has not even...
Flag Tepish of Brazil.
Yeah. He hasn't even taken office yet. And I showed you a video earlier of a crime in progress, which was a young, unarmed, and innocent oppressed youth had grabbed an old woman and was walking her down the street to rob her.
And I got that.
Well, I mean, it's your opinion that he was holding a gun.
It wasn't true.
I don't really know what that has to do with the story.
Cabo.
He's an innocent, unarmed youth. But the police were on the scene. They took him down, shot him. I think the old woman fell down, and they took their chances and started firing.
They shot him a couple more times.
Yeah. You know, they wanted him to stay out. And so immediately, the people around started clapping, cheering. It's really...
But the people in America, if there was any YouTube commentary, they were probably saying that this is excessive force.
There were American comments, sure looked like to me, American English comments saying, well, why did the police shoot him? Don't you think they could have taken him peacefully? And isn't that excessive force? And this is how fascism starts.
Cabo.
And on and on. And all I could think of was that, actually, I have family in South America, and I have a relative who was killed in a robbery very similar to this one, killed for her Social Security check. And I don't know how anyone could picture their own grandmother getting grabbed by someone and think that that person deserves anything other than immediate death sentence. It's just no problem at all for me.
It's the upward welling of the slave mentality, okay, in America. People in America and the rest of the world, they yearn to be slaves. They yearn to be owned by somebody else. The best thing you can hope for is a huge out-of-control crime wave, 3 times as bad as what you have in Baltimore City, in the worst neighborhoods, all over America, which will wipe out the people who think this way or change their minds, preferably change their minds right as they're dying, right as they're being wiped out.
Get repentance.
Right. And it's just when you live in a fantasy land for that long, but the whole, society in decline imitates the underclass. The underclass value in American cities has now percolated up into the suburbs. And that's where most of the people live. And the value has always been, it was expressed by somebody on Tacky Mag, I think, as the Chuck Norris rule, where Chuck Norris and Walker, Texas Ranger, wouldn't draw his gun, even though he's a wrestling officer, if the criminal wanted to duke it out with him. And then he beat him up with his Tang Soo Do. So the idea is this guy was only dragging that woman. He didn't shoot that woman 4 times in the chest. He doesn't deserve any more than he gave to the woman. So the only thing that the cops are supposed to do, according to the sissy mentality, is drag him around, just like he did with the woman. That's it. It's a really, it's a limp dick. It's a limp dick, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, patty cake for a patty cake. I don't know how. And it started out with the fact that when black men used to fight each other in the streets in Baltimore, or other poor men used to do it, if there were people with no social consequence, the cops didn't care if these 2 guys beat the shit out of each other. They only cared if they went after women and children and respected men and stuff like that. If 2 reprobates beat each other up, they didn't care. Okay, so there's not supposed to be any escalation of force. If I'm attacked by 3 men that are half my age, I'm just supposed to try to do to them what they're trying to do to me. Of course, it's not going to work for me because I'm an older dude and I'm small. If I use a knife or a gun or something, according to most people in this sick, degenerate country of ours, then I'm the bad guy. Then I use excessive force.
How can a person watch that video and who are they identifying with? Maybe they're identifying with a cop, because when I watch that video, I see my mother, my grandmother, or someday I will be old and frail like that. And or when you would tell your stories about you were walking around town with a cane and these guys were eyeing you as a victim.
I got attacked 3 times more often when I had a cane
Right.
than when I didn't
So
have a cane.
that makes me just 100 times more angry than another type of crime. When people are going after the elderly and the weak, to me, that's already forfeit. You do that, you're done. You don't get another chance. So if you watch this video and you think, oh, that's a good way of committing crime, go after the old and the elderly, or, oh, that could be me or my mom or my grandma, or you think, oh, I'm the cop, I'm the powerful person. If I were that powerful, I would just take him away to try to put some kind of justice.
Most people would say that he should have shot that guy in the hand and knocked his gun out. And why? Because this is a TV, movie, video game culture. About the only thing that anybody in America has ever learned has been through these entertainment mediums, and you're constantly seeing guns being shot out of hands, people being winged, a big guy with a knife having some little dude take the knife out of his hand. All this martial arts and gunmanship bullshit just to do. These things are almost impossible to do with stunts when they stage them. So, like some of these knife scenes that they do in these movies, guys have been blinded and stabbed just trying to stage this shit. It doesn't work. Most of the people in this country, their view of violence is completely the opposite of reality.
It's from some kind of omnipotent position where if you're a policeman with a gun, then you can surgically manage these.
Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek. Okay, how many times did you see Captain Kirk karate chop somebody on the neck and he goes down? Or Spock, pinch somebody in the neck and he goes down?
Right.
Well,
right.
This has been continued through all of the retread television and movie stuff that's going since then, and it's much older than that. It went with, just a detective hero in a 1930s movie, just like bapping a guy on top of the head with his, with
butt of the pistol or something.
Butt of the pistol, and the guy goes away. I mean, this is ridiculous. I have really beat the shit out of people. Okay, I mean, I have hit people as hard as I can for as long as I can. Okay, and they still haven't gone away. One of my fighters was recently attacked by a couple of innocent, unarmed youths that were, towering 6'1" specimens of misappropriated musculature. Okay, and he just threw a couple punches. He stopped one and he dropped the other one. He was shocked. He was like, "Wow, I didn't feel like I hit him that hard." I said, "Well, most people can't take a high level of contact, and you're used to dealing with dudes that you can hit them all day, and you get this guy 200 times." Well, so when it comes to criminals, so those guys right there, they're maybe not going to make a life out of beating up random people on the street because it didn't work out for them, because they can't take it. But once your criminals get to be like 30 years old, they're all tough bastards, okay, because they've already gone through this trial process. All right, you're essentially dealing with a larcenous athlete when you're dealing with these criminals and stuff. These aren't people that I talk to cops that have ruined their batons trying to stop dudes.
It depends, but you could shoot a guy a bunch of times and not stop him. That happens all the time.
But most people, they grew up on TV, video games, and movies.
Well, maybe I'm kind of a primitive, but when I see a guy like that dragging away an old woman, I just think he deserves more than being shot, and it's not a trial.
Oh yeah, he definitely deserves some Stone Age justice.
Hey, look at it this way. That young man gave his life so that others may watch the video and learn that that's the wrong thing to do.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Right.
If you're a bleeding heart, okay. If you didn't pump your fist in the air like I did when I
did. Saw it. I watched it several times.
And you know what? People on the street, I saw the video. They're clapping.
Yeah. They're cheering
No,
and clapping, and yeah.
not in America. In America, they're screaming that the guy didn't have a gun when he did have a gun. Okay.
Hands up, don't shoot. Right.
Oh, where you live in the land of the lie. Okay, everything's upside down here.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I enjoyed watching it almost as much as the African chick dancing. Actually, if I could have seen the African chick dancing over that dead body, that would have been great. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's what you do
You
after the battle.
Yeah, it would be a much more decent world if when you went into the ghetto and somebody attacked you and you killed them, one of the local girls would come out and do like a dance for you. Okay, I mean it would be a much better world.
Yeah, maybe someday, James.
But in our world, okay, they dance for the criminal. Okay,
Yeah,
on his video.
they do. Sad.
You have anything else for me?
We do, but we're gonna get back into this. Maybe we'll try for another one next week.
Okay.
So, see, we were gone for so long, and I think we've been gone since October, and it's December. But we're gonna try to keep this going. It's fun to do.
All right. Well, hopefully we can do it again next week.
Yeah, we'll find a good time. Thank you, James. That was episode 48 of the Crackpot Podcast with James LaFond and Lynn Lockhart. Thanks, everybody.
There is no more. If you find a place, please let me know. Take me with you when you go. Take me with you when you go. Take me with you when you go.